So we have two kingdoms, two groups. The Principality of Business, the Viscount of IT. Two groups that theoretically have the same goal, the well-being of the people. And the same here in business. We have executives, the specialists in management strategy, and we have IT leaders whose specialty is, well, technology engineers. And, well, it makes sense that IT leaders whose specialty is technology might not specialize in management, and the other way around, that executives might have some shortcomings understanding or difficulties understanding the technology. And up to a certain moment, it all worked just fine. They could work in silos up until now. Because now every company is a technology company. So for a company to operate efficiently, those two worlds need to come together. People from those two siloed groups, they need to leave their comfort zones and meet in the middle. The middle being a space called the capability gap. And that's not something that I came up with. This area here was called the capability gap by Harvard Business Press in a book, The Adventures of an IT Leader, that I can wholeheartedly recommend for you to read. So how can we bridge that gap and make those two worlds meet and talk to each other? Well, I hope that this is something we can discuss today. I'm Hanna Engel, and I've been talking to IT leaders about IT through my career, first as technical trainer at Microsoft, now as a lead at Azelis. I worked with Azure. I freelance as technical trainer as well. I'm part of the Quantum Circle, which is an NGO focused on accelerating quantum adoption in Belgium. So Azure, quantum, AI, IT is difficult. It's complex ideas. And they are not always the sexiest ideas to talk about. So how can we make it more approachable to business stakeholders? How can we show them the money? How can we make them as passionate as we are about the technology? Because after all, we dedicated our life to those. That's a good question. So I would like you after this session to become the bridge between the technology and the business. So what we're going to do? We're going to answer the question, do developers even need soft skills? Maybe that's overrated. Then we're going to start from the back and hit them in the heart. I want the session to be as applicable, as practical as possible. But what I don't want this session to be, it's not going to be a guide how to use PowerPoint. You can find it online. There's lots of really good tips to use black slides for visibility, not white one, because it's not really nice for your audience to look at white slides. What I want to focus on today is in the first part, to fix your mindset. Because where the presentation starts, here, in your head. The rest is just what comes after. What is the effect of what you have in your head? So that's the start from the back and hit them in the heart. How to fix your mindset. Then they can hear, but are they listening? Are you listening to me right now? So then we will focus on engagement techniques. How to wake them up, how to not let them fall asleep and check their phones while you're talking to them. After all, it's their time they're dedicating to listening to you, right? So you want to help them listen to you and help them focus on what you have to tell them. And we'll finish up with a case study, and I will leave you with a couple of actionable tips that you can apply straight away. Sounds good? Okay. Do developers need soft skills? Yeah. Sorry? What was the, someone said something else then? Yes. A little bit. Okay, fair. Well, it makes sense that majority agrees. Otherwise, what would you do here, right? Does anyone have a presentation upcoming where they need to communicate technical stuff to non-technical people? Hands up. Yes. Okay, the little bit developer. Okay, cool. That's good to know. You might become my victim moving forward. Okay. Be careful what you wish for. Okay. So we agreed that developers need soft skill. Fair. So who are developers? Who's a software engineer? Someone who solves a problem you didn't know you had in a way that you don't understand. See also wizard, magician. And it's a funny definition, but look at it from the perspective of a non-technical or a business leader. If a software engineer comes over to me and tells me, oh yeah, by the way, you have this and this problem. You've never felt the real impact of that problem, but don't worry, I will fix it for you. Fine. And then you do the job. You drink hectoliters of coffee, and you sweat, and you spend sleepless nights trying to solve the puzzle, and then you're super proud of yourself because you saved the world another day. And no one really cares because they didn't see the problem in the first place. They call the software engineer wizard or magician. You remember what they did with the witches, right? Why is it so important to explain your importance, the importance of your work? Why it's so important that everyone understand what you're doing and why you're doing the things you're doing? Lack of understanding breeds suspicion. If you have the skill of communicating technical stuff to non-technical people, it's going to be so much easier to get the budget, to get the approval, to get the promotion, to get support, to get things done in the organization, because the times where you could get things done only by yourself are gone. Now you need a team to support you there. I don't know if there were ever times like this where you could only get done things by yourself. But the team that you need, the team of people that you need to support you, they're usually not proficient in C#. Are you afraid that AI will take your job? No. Okay, you probably shouldn't. AI can assist you in writing software, even in making presentation. But what AI will not help you do is AI will not help you become a better human being. Whenever you communicate, whenever you want to connect with your audience, they want emotions. They want to understand why it is so important, the thing that you're telling them, or why your project is the one that they should invest in. They want to connect to you. They want to know who you are. So having technical skills is great, but where you can really develop your competitive advantage is by becoming less of an AI and more of a human. And last but not least, There is a theory by Howard Gardner's that there exist multiple intelligences. And being a developer, to write a software, you're probably pretty strong in the logical, mathematical part. So it's only natural that when it comes to explaining, when it comes to trying to empathize with your audience or trying to connect, trying to communicate, it might be difficult. Intelligence is like a brain. The less you use a certain part of it, it is weaker, but you can make it stronger by exercising. So if writing code is the logical mathematical part, then explaining, communicating, it's the linguistic, intrapersonal, and interpersonal part. Okay, so like I promised, I said that we will move into fixing your mindset. But how can you do it? How can you pep talk yourself into creating better presentations? Start from the back, hit them in the heart. What does it even mean? I was looking for a title that would make you feel something, obviously, following my own advice. And what I find particularly useful while preparing for a presentation is asking myself 3 questions. So, starting from the back, what I want my audience to get or feel or think after the presentation. And hit them in the heart, speak to their heart, make them feel something. If there is no emotional connection, if there's no drama, if there's no feelings, they can read an email, they can read a book. Send them an email if there is nothing happening during your presentation. So what are the questions? What do they want to hear? What do you want to hear from me? I asked myself that question while preparing to that talk to this presentation. So I thought, okay, they are developers. What kind of expectations they might have towards my talk? What kind of problems might they have? Maybe they're preparing for a presentation where they might deliver, where they might have to explain a technical concept to a non-technical person. And then start from the back. So how can you meet those expectations in your presentation? Okay, but that's what they expect from your presentation. But you're in a driving seat. You're there giving presentation, right? You're there with a purpose. What's your purpose? What do you want them to hear? What are 3 things that you want them to remember after your talk? Is there something that you want them to do after your talk? Is there a call to action? Do you want them to take an action? Do you want them to reflect? And last but not least, how do you want them to feel? Do you want them to feel hopeful, sad, inspired, energized? Or maybe you want to inspire fear because you want to sell something. Okay. What do they want to hear? As technical specialists, we believe the merits of our projects are inherently obvious. They are not. Whenever there's a project, a technical project, and we talked about a technical project, we focus on the work we have done. The project was very complex. It involved multiple stakeholders, multiple different technologies. We spent lots of nights trying to figure out the details. It was difficult. We want to explain that to our audience. We did a really good job, okay? Darn it. We want the world to know, and there's nothing wrong with that. We deserve appreciation. It's fine. And that's what the stage is for, right? To talk about our achievements. And it makes sense from our perspective to talk about the work that we've done, right? Makes sense. Well, what if we switch the perspective? What if we think what the audience wants to hear from us? Do they want to hear, oh yeah, I worked so hard. Oh yeah, it was really difficult. Oh yeah, I drank 5 liters of Red Bull. Oh, not really. So what do they want to hear? If they're business stakeholders, usually that's what they're interested in. Given the title of the presentation, Communicating Technical Concepts to Non-Technical Audience, it's great that the technology was complex. It's great that it involves different software, different stakeholders, and so on. But what's the most important is the result for the business. What's in it for me? What do I get from it? Does it reduce cost? Does it increase productivity? Does it increase efficiency of the company? How it does it? Yeah, great, okay. It uses Kubernetes cluster, or it runs on containers, just a couple of them, or it uses serverless, fine. But what's the most important is the benefit. What do you want them to hear? The whole problem with communication is to establish communication with oneself. Often, I heard presentations, and I was wondering, yeah, but what's your point? What are you trying to say? So, know what you want to say. What is your point? Are you trying to convince someone? Are you trying to inform someone? What is your main point on a given slide? Even during a given presentation. Sure, sometimes it happens that our boss told us, oh yeah, just give that presentation, but always know why you are in the room. How do you want them to feel? I feel that it is often omitted. We are human beings, and we operate on the level of emotions. Because when we talk about technology, emotions are involved. If you are a non-technical person and you are invited to a technical presentation, you are not the most secure person in the room, okay? What you might feel scared. This new tool is going to introduce change. Maybe I'm a senior project manager. Maybe I'm afraid that I won't be able to catch up. Or maybe this new young engineer, they will be promoted instead of me because they came up with this new shiny tool and I won't be able to understand it, or it will be too complicated and I won't be able to explain it to my team. They might feel powerless. It doesn't work again. And there's nothing I can do about that because it's the technology that's beyond my comprehension. I need to rely on other people to fix that. And I don't even understand why it doesn't work. I might feel ashamed that I don't understand. Perhaps I'm a director, I'm a manager of a huge corporation, and I don't understand. Me, the C-level manager? I won't ask questions to this 20-something engineer. They might be overloaded. They might have not slept very well at night. Your project might be 15th on the list of priorities. It just might be difficult for them to focus, and it's your job to help them do that. So how do you want them to feel during our presentation? We want them to feel safe and confident. We want to let them know that vulnerability is okay and that their attention is absolutely crucial for us. That we ask for their attention for this hour, we take a credit because they don't know if it's worth to listen to us for 1 hour. So we get the credit of their trust for 1 hour, and we need to prove that it's worth it, that this is exactly what they need right now, and we need to tell them why. We need to let not only them, but the whole group, that the rules are that vulnerability is okay. Listen, we're going to talk about technology. You don't have IT degree. What I'm going to present, it took me years, decades to master. So there's absolutely no shame in asking questions. If you frame it like that, if you give such a context, no one's going to be ashamed asking questions. But you, as a leader, as a presenter, need to create an atmosphere where it's okay not to know and it's okay to ask questions. How can you make them feel safe and confident? There's this project. It involves technology, complex technology, but I'm here. I'm for you. I'm reachable. If you feel comfortable, if you have any additional questions, you can reach out to me after the session. This is the roadmap. This is what we're going to do. I have a plan, not only for now. I'm not dropping the solution on you and running away. This is the plan. I'm with you throughout the journey. This is a training that I prepared to take the users on board. So you make them feel you are in charge and you anticipated already some of their questions. And the fact that you make yourself available, I understand that there might be concern that will blow into your face with people calling you and messaging you, oh, yeah, because this and that and this. However, if you make yourself available and you open up to potential questions and you mess up, they will be way less likely to escalate or way more likely to work with you towards resolution rather than be an hoe to you. Okay, so how can you make that work? Over-communicate. Something I see very often is that people don't really let others know what they're working on. They receive an email, and even though they do need a job, even a simple email saying, hey, received, I'm on it, I'm working on it, makes other people feel like, oh, okay, they're in control. I know what's going on. Self-service goes a long way. I worked with a project manager who created a simple Power BI dashboard for C-level management, where they could track how the project is going. There was not a lot of information, but they had a feeling that they have a reporting, they see what the progress of the project is. Offer extra help. What's in it for me? This is crucial. If you don't explain what's in it for me, then they will not be engaged in what you have to tell them. Okay, engagement. They can hear, but are they listening? Once is not enough. The rule of 3. DevOps is like dating, and the technique of a lazy presenter. So let's start with the first one. The rule of 3. In my times as a Microsoft technical trainer, I couldn't understand. After my training, we would do a what you remember quiz, and people would fail at very simple questions, or maybe not simple questions, but they would fail at a question, and I would think, but I remember very well that I talked about it. So how come that the majority answered it wrongly? I thought that, oh, no, maybe I remember it wrongly. Maybe I did not mention it, but it happened over and over again. Well, I did mention it, but only once. There's a book, Never Split the Difference. It's a book on negotiations, not really on training, but it makes a very good point on the rule of 3. If you want to have an effective agreement with someone, make them agree with you 3 times. The same happens with training. So as trainers, we have the rule of 3. So tell them what you're going to tell them. Tell them. Tell them what you told them. Repetition is the key to learning. Learning is nothing else but just repeatedly doing a thing. So the way you can introduce that, no use of repeating the same sentence 3 times, that would be boring. But a very easy way you can do it is create an agenda where you mention key points, then develop on your agenda points and make a summary. Pretty easy. Okay. Kick them out of the comma. It is your responsibility as a presenter to keep the focus of your audience. That's why you're here. They could have read a book, they could have Googled, they could have asked ChatGPT, but they're listening to you, and people's attention span is extremely short. So it's your responsibility to help them listen to you. How can you do it? Metaphors, comparisons go a long way. It has been proven scientifically that we learn better if we link a new piece of information to something we already know. So, DevOps is like dating. What do I mean by that? And you could even tell the first time you saw it, DevOps is like dating, and I heard the sound all over. It sparked something, right? I got your attention. So what do I mean by that? Well, you can explain a concept in a bit provocative way, but you get people's attention. So you can explain DevOps by comparing to dating. For example, you can say, you can develop applications in waterfall, or you can use agile methodology. And waterfall is being born and knowing who you're going to marry from the very beginning. You're born and you're already engaged. It's a bit outdated. It doesn't really match the needs of the time. And agile is like dating nowadays. You get to make mistakes, you get to know what you really want, and you get to learn the lessons. You get to learn on your mistakes. And the comparison makes sense, and it sparks interest, I hope, a little bit. And of course, you can always ask ChatGPT if you lack inspiration. Explain to me what something is, as if you were explaining it to a 5-year-old, or if it's a 5-year-old, it tends to be a bit patronizing. You can always say to an 80-year-old grandma, or just say business, non-technical leader. And Don't take the first version. It's funny because if I use the 80-year-old grandma, it tends to use the gardening metaphors way often. And it links to the metaphors and comparisons to what they already know are more effective. Don't take the first version. It's not the best version. Talk to the ChatGPT and say it's not good enough. It's not good enough. Something that actually works, you can offer a bribe to ChatGPT. You can say, dear ChatGPT, please explain to me and so on. If you do a really good job, I can give you $20. And apparently it comes up with better solutions. And no, I'm not inviting anyone to bribe no one. You don't actually give money to ChatGPT, for the record. Okay, lazy presenter. Make them do the work. You can only focus for a certain amount of time on my lovely voice. But what really makes you remember is actually doing what I've been preaching. And doing an exercise gives you an opportunity to network. And I have the fact that doing the exercise makes you remember better. I have data to prove it. We tend to retain 70% of what we say compared to 20% to what we hear. What you see here is, it's huge slide, so let's dim it down. It's a comparison what we tend to remember after 2 weeks. And you can see that if you ingest new content in a passive form, you tend to remember way less compared to an active form. So that's the 20% of my lecture. You're going to remember 20%, not a lot. But now, if we introduce an exercise, and I will ask you to reproduce what I said in an active form, the percentage is way higher. It goes to up to 70%. And like I said, it's my responsibility to keep you engaged, focus, and remember something from my session. So that's what we're going to do. If my PowerPoint worked. Okay, the exercise is following. This is a description of a product. It's pretty dry, factual. It's actually what the product is all about. And in a minute, you're going to see a delivery, a professional presentation of exactly the same product. When you read the description, you can see it's not very impressive. It is indeed from 2007, so the technology went forward. But when you look at the video of the presentation, I would like you to think about everything that we discussed so far. And after the presentation, I would like to have a really short discussion that, oh, he used this technique. Oh, I could tell that he did that to achieve that. Really short, we talked about the rule of 3, the lazy presenter. There are many things that we touched upon, so don't feel limited. It's a free discussion.
We're introducing 3 revolutionary products of this class. The first one is a widescreen iPod with touch controls. The second is a revolutionary mobile phone. And the third is a breakthrough internet communications device. So, three things: a widescreen iPod with touch controls, a revolutionary mobile phone, and a breakthrough internet communications device. An iPod, a phone, and an internet communicator. An iPod, a phone. Are you getting it? These are not three separate devices. This is one device. And we are calling it iPhone. Today, Apple is going to reinvent the phone. And here it is. No. So, we're going to reinvent the phone. Now, we're going to start with a revolutionary user interface. It is the result of years of research and development. And, of course, it's an interplay of hardware and software. Now, why do we need a revolutionary user interface? I mean, here's 4 smartphones, right? Motorola Q, the BlackBerry, Palm Treo, Nokia E62, the usual suspects. And what's wrong with their user interfaces? Well, the problem with them is really sort of in the bottom 40 there. It's this stuff right here. They all have these keyboards that are there whether you need them or not to be there. So how are we going to take this to a mobile device? Well, what we're going to do is get rid of all these buttons and just make a giant screen. A giant screen. Now, how are we going to communicate this? We don't want to carry around a mouse, right? So what are we going to do? Oh, a stylus, right? We're going to use a stylus. No. No. Who wants a stylus? You have to get them and put them away and you lose them. Yuck. Nobody wants a stylus. So let's not use a stylus. We're going to use the best pointing device in the world. We're going to use a pointing device that we're all born with. We're born with 10 of them. We're going to use our fingers. We're going to touch this with our fingers. And we have invented a new technology called multi-touch, which is phenomenal. It works like magic. You don't need a stylus. It's far more accurate than any touch display that's ever been shipped. It ignores unintended touches. It's super smart. You can do multi-finger gestures on it. And boy, have we patented it.
And on it goes. So, what have you heard? What parts from the presentation that you've just seen, my presentation, can you identify in the Steve's delivery? Yes.
He starts off by announcing what he's going to tell you.
Yeah. So he's going to tell me what he's telling me what he's going to tell me. Sure. Anything else? Sure. The? Yes, the rule of 3, indeed.
Build excitement.
Yeah.
A lot, and let the audience make the conclusion to what he wants to present. Had humor for the feeling like this, and then he focused on the problem and explained why it would work, why the others would work.
Yes, I really like that. Boy, you're a great student. Thank you. I can tell that you're here with a purpose, preparing for the presentation. I stopped on this slide because this is the clue. This is actually the reason I picked this video. Because here, he's explaining technology, whatever it's called. Whatever. they introduced a new technology in Apple, okay, in the iPhone. How does he approach the subject? Does he talk about the code? I'm sure it included the code. No. Does he talk how complex it was, what kind of architecture it involved? No. Why not?
There's an interesting thing about the way I've seen this presentation many times, and he leans heavily on things people in the audience already understand. He talks about a stylus.
Uh-huh.
Most of the people in that room have lost the stylus that came with their part pilot.
Yeah.
And so he's making people think about something that's already familiar.
Mm-hmm.
And something I've always thought is interesting is when he says Apple's doing a phone, there's a huge round of applause. And when he says Apple's doing a widescreen iPod, there's a huge round of applause. And when he says Apple's doing a revolutionary internet communicator, the applause is much smaller because no one knows what that is.
Yeah.
Because they're not like the third bit isn't clear. And so you can really see from the audience reaction how when he's like, we're going to take this familiar thing and we're going to put a spin on it. And people are like, we're going to get excited about this because we understand the familiar thing. We feel like you get us. And yeah, the keyboards thing is another one. Everyone had the BlackBerry and that kind of stuff. And I think it's that whole meet the audience where they already are. And then just bring them slowly to the new thing and let them figure it out for themselves.
Awesome. I love this presentation because I never know what I'm going to hear. And it absolutely makes sense, right? But I had different ideas. I never noticed that. You're totally correct. My idea was that he thought, who's going to listen to my talk and what's the purpose? So the very beginning of my talk, he's talking to his stakeholders. He's thinking about his shares. The stakeholders don't care about what's the architecture of the solution, what's the code. They care, does it work? Yes, it works like magic. Do I need stylus? The stylus, I don't like it, I lost it. No stylus, dear stakeholder. He also talks maybe to the end users. So they also concern stylus, no stylus. So what are the features? What are the benefits? Again, he's talking with benefits. Not the features, but benefits. It's more accurate. How accurate? How did they do that? We don't know. We just know what benefit, what we get out of it. Ignores unintended touches, another benefit, multi-finger gesture, and another information for stakeholders. We patented it. Many. Did anyone notice anything else? Yes. He made? I'm sorry, I can't hear. Made a laugh. Yes, he did. Yeah, he got the emotional connection, right? It also made me wonder whether the laugh was genuine or whether there were some Apple dudes just, going, laugh now. But yeah, absolutely right. Okay, so to leave you with something, I prepared a quick presentation template. It won't work for every presentation. It works for a presentation where you present a project. Let's say we had a problem, we fixed it, that's how we fix it. It shouldn't take long. I'd say up to 20 minutes. After 20 minutes, you lose them. If it's Teams meeting or Zoom meeting, if it's online, they're going to grab a coffee or they're going to check their emails. So you start with saying what you want from them. Is it, hi, we are meeting here and the objective of the meeting is to inform, ask for approval, ask for funding. What do you want from them? Agenda, that's what you can expect from me. Why you did what you did, meaning we tackled this monster. That was the awful situation we were in. Add some drama, sparkle, some data on top of that. The impact, numbers. but use the data relevant to the solution. Don't tell them about the cost if your solution is not reducing cost. Don't tell them about productivity if your solution is not really affecting the productivity. Yeah, you can introduce some drama. Oh, we tried many different solutions, nothing really worked because we thought to check many different solutions. It's not that we blindly followed one and only vendor. And then you go to the solution. What? Why this one? How does it work? I mean, how does it solve the problem? Again, we talk about benefits, not really how the solution works. Of course, you can adapt it to your audience, to their level, and mention a sentence or two. But if we talk about communicating technical concepts to non-technical audience, the focus is on how it solves the problem. And what now? Often, presentation ends here. So, yeah, that's it. Thank you. No, it continues. Okay, that's the solution. And now you can start using it. Or I would like to hear your thoughts. I would like to have some feedback, some call to action. What can they do? What's the next step for them? Practical tips, don't ask, are there any questions? Instead, what questions do you have? Create the context in which it's comfortable to ask questions. Say, hey, it took me so many years to get there. It's okay not to know. I'm here to answer all of your questions. Ask yourself what questions they might have. How to measure impact. And that's something that preferably you should think even before the project. How to measure the current state to then be able to compare it to what your solution actually did. Oh, not yet. And a couple of ideas for your slides. You cannot go wrong explaining how much it costs, what are our competitors doing, because that's what management is mainly driven. What is my competition doing? What about security? How will it improve efficiency, productivity? Will it scale? What best practices are you using in this approach? And last but not least, explain how your idea contributes to the overall company's strategy. You might create a great project, but if it improves productivity, but this year your company's main focus is to cut costs, it will not impress your boss as much as it could. Why? Because your boss' main objective is to cut costs, and his boss' objective is to cut costs, and the boss of your boss is to cut costs. So try to tie your project outcomes to the overall strategy or to your boss's goals. And now I can show you this slide. Thank you very much.